So today I wanted to give you an introduction to our newest project. We've gotten ourselves a project camper, as it were. We had a much larger, much newer camper, but we weren't using it enough, and we sold at the end of last season, getting an amazing price. So anyway, it brings us to now. Wanted to have a small family camper, easy to tow, footprint that would fit in state park lots. And it brought me to this after a lot of research. So this is a 2008. It is a Forest River Flaggstaff Shamrock 23SS. So, and the big feature here, it's of course a hybrid. Big feature being the two bunks that drop out the ends. So I want to give you a quick kind of walk around and sort of an update of where we are so far. And first thing, canvases are so important. I've learned that they're clean, that they're intact, and I'm very happy to note that the canvases on both ends are in really, really nice shape. These guys generally knew to dry them out, or if they closed up when it was raining, to take it home and open it up again and let it air dry. So there's a little bit of mildew up on top of that bunk, but really very little, and I'll deal with that before I put it all back, put it away for the first trip. But really, really pleased about that. It does have, of course, battery. It's got two 20-pound tanks on it. It's a manual jack, which I'm not upset about in the least. I'm going to figure out how to lubricate that. The body is in generally very good shape. Not a lot of delaminating going on. There's a very tiny spot on the front bunk, and there's on the wall on the other side towards the back, just the tiniest of spots. But a big attraction to me for this particular unit was the slide. This thing has the slide occupies, and by the way, the length is about 24 feet. The 23 I think would indicate the more or less the body length, but it's ultimately like 24.8 feet long. But look how big that slide is compared to the overall unit. It makes a huge difference, and I'll show you inside in a few minutes. And a big benefit here, I'm a fan of these. I had them on my last camper, but it's got the slide awning, and I know that just makes such a difference in keeping debris out of the gaskets. But it also keeps them dry, and it keeps them out of the sunlight. And there's a lot to like about all of those things. So anyway, so it's got the slide awning. Nice big slide. You'll see more of that inside. There's storage in here. For stability's sake, I appreciate it's a tandem axle. For a shorter trailer, that's not always the case, so that's pretty cool. Coming around the back, it does have the outdoor shower, and we got the shower head with it, so that's nice. It's manual jacks at all four corners. We were used to automatic leveling on the last one. However, that was problematic. It was very confused about whether it was level or not. It was up and down a lot, so I actually prefer this style. So I'm pretty pleased about that. You can see here, got a lens broken on one of the marker lights. Harbor Freight and my hard-earned $5.80 bought me a pair of replacements that are LEDs. And I'm going to go around and just do a light check all the way around. My truck has a light check feature. I just haven't had time to bother with it yet. It does have a nice spare tire cover. Again, got another bunk dropping out the back. The specs call for it to be a queen bed front and rear. I'm not convinced on this back one. I think the back bunk may be slightly smaller. It might be a full. For our purposes, it makes zero difference. For what we're doing, doesn't make an ounce of difference, because my wife and I, front bunk, obviously, the back bunk is for the bigger kid, and then the other one will sleep elsewhere, and I'll show you that. It does have AC, and a huge thing to look at, obviously, when you're buying a camper is the roof. The roof membrane is excellent. It's one of the best I looked at, and I looked at a lot of them this vintage, and man, they are a nightmare. More frequently than not, they are just super problematic. And this one having a nice roof. The only place it's ever had water come in is at both ends. And these things, if you don't close them properly, if you get a string, there are these strings that go underneath on this particular model, the rain flap. It's got these strings that run across here, and they tension the rain flap from this side to the other. And if those strings, when they're loose, because they're loose when you're putting all this away, if they're loose, they get hung up in these gaskets, and you can have a water leak if you're not careful. And the prior owner, who was the second owner of the camper, he in fact had that happen. And sure enough, it took water at both ends a little bit, but the floors are generally solid and in just really, really good shape. So coming down the side, there is, if you look, I don't know if you can see it or not, but looking down the side right here, there's a little wrinkle, just the tiniest of delaminations. I think for a unit this old, I'm going to experience that. So kind of, I don't care. I think it's fine. If we get 4, 5, 6 years of use out of this, I believe that I'll probably get my money back out of it. I also like, strangely, I like that this is a manual awning. It's not power. And I like that in the sense that if a problem comes along, it's cheaper to replace. It's certainly simpler to diagnose. And thankfully, the fabric is in really excellent shape. So let's go inside, and I'll give you a tour of the inside as well. But you know, as I looked at it, you're seeing it more or less the way I examined it, and you know, at this point I was already kind of impressed. So let's go inside. So one thing we looked for, there were a lot of these that had been rehabbed according to the owners. I really looked for more original condition but decent shape, because I looked at several that were rehabbed and they were not all that impressive. I'd rather see it the way it left the factory and the way it's been maintained, as opposed to somebody slapping paint all over the top. So, you know, maybe that's just me. So a thing that we really liked here, queen bunk in the front. These mattresses are supposed to be heated. Again, with that leak at the end, they look to me like they've been wet. I'm not sure if those covers will come off. I have the option to wash them. If not, I may replace them, and really I don't care about the heating. Nice thing about the hybrid, I mean, that's a huge tent down there, but effectively this works like a pop-up, but it's in the body of a fiberglass camper. So you drop it out, you know, and a nice feature I'll show you in a second. But if you're doing a quick overnight stop and it's just a person or two, you don't even have to put those things down. There's other places to sleep. So no shortage of lighting. So there's light there. I like this little storage shelf, runs across, reinforced right there. So as you come out of the bed, got some controls down here. Over here is the water heater compartment. Now there's that slide. Look at that dude. And I've watched a bunch of videos on these, but you know, the RV guys kind of blow by this. But as a guy that was really contemplating, you know, when you're shopping for the camper, before you go look at it, at least the way I work, I kind of wanted to see a little more of an in-depth review, and nobody really was doing that much. So I'll show you, you know, spend a little more time here. But this slide is huge, and you can see you got kind of your kitchenette business down at this end, and then you got this couch that converts out into a bed, which I was pointing out earlier. You know, a regular adult I think could sleep on there pretty easily and be reasonably comfortable. So that's pretty cool. More storage up top, and the quality of these cabinets feels pretty good. These hinges, I like how they're designed. There's no catch here, but I just kind of like how they're nice and tight, so you can open these doors and they more or less stay put, and it goes right through. So a lot of the typical supply, of course it's going to squeak, right, from age. But we like the sort of the color palette. You see here, light there, got some other lights over here. I don't know how to turn those on yet. That's part of the learning process, I suppose. But nice big kitchenette here. I can see us scuffing and maybe trying to refinish. I don't know what this material is. It's probably some kind of, feels like a veneer of some ilk. I don't know if I'd be able to put some stain on that or not. That would be my preference, but we'll see. But a nice double sink there. Up top we have a microwave that is functional. I got a range hood there. So it's a nice combination for a smaller camper. It's a big functional kitchen area. And when you swing over, looking the other direction, so up top, got the stereo here, you know, every bit the 2008 variety, the concert tone, which I don't have much faith in how that's going to work out. I don't really care. But, you know, inside the front door, we got storage here. Look at there. Nice big table, and that'll drop down and make a bed, of course. Kid can easily sleep there. That is the RV cover that came with it. And for anybody that's shopping for an RV, buying privately, one thing I would highly suggest is, you know, really feel around on the seller about what things can be included, because it will cost you a lot to buy all the accessories that are necessary to make these things work. So, you know, generally the dinette's in good shape. That drops down. Obviously, we've seen under there. More lighting up top, which is pretty cool. Over here, we've got the refrigerator. I've just fired that for the first time to test it, so fingers crossed. We'll see how that works out. Tons of storage up top again. Really like that. Apparently somebody likes California strawberries. But those do actually have the struts on them too, which I really, really, really like. Thermostat for adjusting temperature inside. We'll test AC and a lot of this stuff. You know, it's wintertime, right? You have to go on faith. I bought into the seller. I believe he's an honest guy. Generally good shape. By the way, you know, original vinyl floor in what I believe is serviceable condition. Would I like it to be new vinyl? Probably. Am I going to worry about it? Probably not. Like it's a camper, you know, so to some degree, who cares? The good news is the floors generally are solid in here. And these are a small sandwich. They have a very thin, I think it's 1/8 inch wood with foam in between layered, and then another layer of wood. So that sandwich is fairly thin. If it gets wet, it just absolutely kills it. And generally these floors are good. Right down at the end, got a soft right at the very end. Not going to worry about it. Moving along, lots of storage here before we get to the bathroom. Open this up. Nice big closet. Turn it that way. For hanging clothes, probably linens, any number of other things. More storage there. There's a little shelf here, and the way they have this cable run, I'm assuming they probably had a small television down here for the folks in the back bunk. Again, that back bunk, if I had to guess, I'm calling that full-size bed. The specs call it queen, but I can tell you the rods that hold up the tents at the two ends, they're not the same length. This one is probably shorter by like 6-8 inches. So, but again, look at that canvas. This was a huge selling feature for me, that these canvases just look really, really good. No holes, virtually no mildew. And I'm saying virtually. It's a camper that's open to the outside, right? Particularly when you unzip these windows, you're going to get moisture in here. So that part doesn't even really bother me, but generally in great shape. You can see I didn't even push it down back here. I just flopped out the mattress to just sort of get a sense of the overall size. Huge advantage to hybrids, and why I really wanted to go this way, particularly when we're boondock camping. So we have a Ford Lightning pickup truck, which is, I bought it with the Pro Power 9.6 kilowatt generator built in, so I can run this camper off-grid electrically. I'd have to say probably a week or more, because it'll run my house for 2 days, and my house obviously has a much larger electrical draw than this does. But I would certainly think, call it 5 days to be safe. However, there are points when you just don't want to have it plugged into the truck, right? Huge feature of these guys, these unzip, and then you got screens, and the breeze comes through, and I was shocked. When I brought it home and I opened it, just the breeze coming through the unit was wonderful. Really, really loved it. So I think this is a big advantage. We owned, prior to our big travel trailer, we had a 19-footer that was not a hybrid, and this, just the breeze coming through and the space this adds without the weight penalty. I don't know why we didn't buy a hybrid then, because had we might not have ever bought the larger camper. But anyway, I digress. Storage up above again, decent. So, overall, decent shape here. As I back up a little bit, perfect, good job. Looks pretty good. Again, older materials, somehow got a little crack right there, which I'll caulk. But, overall, I think this place is in pretty decent shape. It's just all original. And again, I don't care, a little older. We'll look back the other direction, give you a view. That's kind of what we're working with there. It's a lot of space. We can go to a campground if we have a rainy day. I have every confidence that, potentially 3 or 4 of us, which is the most of my family that'll be staying in it at any given moment. We can be in here and be fine. Set up a little TV or do games here at the table. Like, there's plenty of opportunity. There's place for guests to sit. If you really had a lot of people over, a person or two could sit down on that bunk, right, and face in, or on that countertop, or on that countertop. Any number of things. So, for a number of reasons, this just worked for us. I have every reason to think that all the accessories are going to work, even if some of it doesn't. I still believe we got a fairly good deal. It is right now, just for anybody that's interested in time, you'll see when I post this, but it's April of 2025. I've just paid a little over $5,000 for it. So, which I think some people will say is crazy, way too much. But I can tell you, I looked at a bunch of $3,000 and $4,000 campers that were worth about 500. So in light of those, I believe this has been a good deal. So anyway, this is my initial review of this thing. You're going to see as we get it fired up, test everything, go on our first real trip. I did tow it home. It tows great. Tires look to be in good shape. The bearings were redone a couple of years ago. And again, as I said, the roof is fantastic, which in my mind is the huge critical thing. But anyway, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more on this as we get it operating and just, general RV stuff. If you have any questions, please post them below. Comments, always appreciated. Definitely appreciate your likes. And please subscribe. More coming and tons of car stuff on my channel. Not to mention some product reviews. I've gotten into doing some of those as well for Amazon and Walmart products. So please keep an eye. I thank you for tuning in and have a fantastic day.